Hi, welcome to Module 4. My name is Gasper and I'm Developer Relations Lead at Oasis Network. In this module, I will show you the Oasis blockchain explorers built by community or Oasis or partners. So I will first share some block explorers for consensus layer, and then we will also see the explorer for Emerald Paradigm, which is our EVM blockchain or EVM, EVM compatible blockchain. So let me start with the first one, which is Oasis Scan. So if you want to check some transactions, if you want to verify some transactions, if you want to check some statuses, balances, or delegations, and so on, right, of any address on our blockchain, Oasis Scan is the first option to do so. So Oasis Scan can show you your address, details, can show you also a list of validators, so you can see all the validators that are on our network or that supports our network. Also, you can see pair-time validators. Okay, so you have pair-times, which is a tab or a menu, a tab that shows all the or a list of pair-time validators. And also, what's a good thing about Oasis Scan, it shows the consensus to pair-time transactions. So you have an option to click to pair-time transactions, and you will have all the pair-time to consensus or consensus to pair-time transactions, which is really useful and handful to to have that. Now let me give you an example. If you're using Oasis Scan and if you enter, for example, my address, you will notice some details first, right? So account address is that one. You see the total balance, you see the available balance, you see the escrow. So this escrow actually is your staking, is what you have sent as a delegation, or if you stake some rows, this will be presented as escrow. Now debonding is amount of rows that you are or that you undelegate, right? So you are waiting for these rows to be released back to your wallet. And here is actually your escrow or your staking. You can check active or debonding delegations, right? So you have both. There are some events that you did or that happened to your address, right? Or regarding to your address, which means maybe some transfer, like deposit, like sending some rows to another address. Okay, and down below you see the transaction history. So you can see transactions on consensus by default. But if you have some transactions, let's say coming from pair-time, you can click the pair-time button or tab, and it will show you only the pair-time transactions, which means that, let's say if you transferred something from Emerald pair-time to consensus address, you will see these transactions under this tab, which is awesome, right? Now, let me show you even more, okay? If we go to one specific transaction, you can see the details, what happened on blockchain, right? So if you check and if you just maybe click on one transaction, if you have TX ID, or we call it also transaction hash or TX hash, if you copy and paste that to the Oasis Scan, or you find it, or you just click on one transaction, this will show up. Okay, so first transaction hash or transaction ID. You have the status. So let's say the typical is success. And then when this transaction happened. So basically it's a timestamp, right? And then there is a height where actually this occurred. Let's say on which or in which block height. And then you have the content of this transaction. So what you will typically find or what you're looking for is actually, a method. You see what happened. For example, staking reclaim escrow. This is a method that actually means that I undelegated some rows. Okay. And you see Body includes account, so that's from validator, so from which account, which is some validator that I unstaked. And then there are shares, which is basically just representation, and it's not equal to your rows, but it's calculated from rows into shares. Okay, so that's why I put here shares are not equal to rows stacked, right? Okay, if you go further, you will see some signatures, but also what's important is the block height, the timestamp, so when and where it happened. Okay. Now, also, if you're looking to which address this will be released, so you see the address in signature. You have also the signature public key and the address, right? The address. This is actually address that I'm using. This is my address, and I said this is the address where the rows will be released back to my account, back to my address. All right. So these are the details about some transactions. Now, if we go to another blockchain explorer or block explorer, which is Oasis Monitor. So Oasis Monitor is also for consensus layer. Okay, you're using the Oasis 1 addresses, and you can copy and paste them to this block explorer, right? And you can do the same things essentially then on Oasis Scan. Okay, so you have a list of validators, you have some statistics here, but you can also use some APIs, right? So if you're a developer, you can use some APIs for your web application or something, right? Maybe you are building a dashboard or something, and you need these APIs. Cool. Now, let me show you the same thing. So the same address, how it looks like on Oasis Monitor. So my address, I actually searched, I entered my address, and then this appears. Okay. So I have my account details or account information. I see my address. I see my total balance. Okay. I see my available or liquid balance. I can see escrow balance if I had any delegations, right, or staking. This would show up here. The bonding is also currently 0 because these are the bonding delegations balance. Okay, that's how they represent your unbonding delegations. Now, if you go to history, so there is a transfers, you have a history of your transactions. But keep in mind that here you have kind of a filter which transactions will appear. So you can go to escrow events if you want to see delegate and undelegate transactions. You can see the rewards here. So you can click these tabs, these links, these buttons, and you will see a different type of transactions. And maybe if you're interested in your rewards, you can see them by daily and so on, right? So that's pretty cool stuff if you are more into the rewards and more into the staking stuff, right? Now let's take a look at the another let's say block explorer. So this block explorer or blockchain explorer is meant for our EVM blockchain called Emerald. So Emerald Paradigm. Now you will notice that it looks similar. It has similar functionalities, but maybe in a different, design user interface if you want. Now here you can only use Ethereum compatible addresses because those are used on EVM compatible blockchain on Emerald. Okay. So when you provide one address, I will show you the details in the next slide. But essentially what you can see are similar parameters like block heights, like transactions, like which tokens exist on this blockchain, or what are the smart contract addresses of specific tokens. One example could be that you breached some USDC or ETH and you need the smart contract address, maybe just to add that token to your MetaMask or something. So you can use that block explorer, you can enter the name or, let's say the name of the token, and get the smart contract address. And also we offer, or let's say on this block Explorer, you have some APIs. So that's pretty cool. Now, let me show you, more detailed option for this specific address. So that's one of my demo accounts I'm using. Okay, so on this EVM, or let's say Ethereum compatible address, I actually sent some rows. And if you take a look, right, I will see the details about, okay, this is my address. Balance on this account is actually, let's say, 24.2 rows. Okay, so balance only shows the rows because rows is native token on Emerald blockchain. Now tokens, on the other hand, are all the tokens that you have on the same address, okay, or on the same account, right? Essentially, it means if you have, let's say, Ethereum or wrapped Ethereum, if you have, USD coin on Emerald, if you have some user tokens or, FTP tokens, whatever you're using, right, on Emerald, it should appear right here, okay? Then you have transactions or transaction history. So one of the, maybe similar functionalities than compared to these tokens is also this tokens right here down below. If you click that, you will see a list. Okay, so you can actually play around, be curious, and click around to see and dive into your account on blockchain. Okay, now let me show you one more thing. It's actually a transaction details for, let's say, in my case, I had some. What did I do? Probably I sent some, or maybe I swapped something. So I did something on user, right? So you can see that was my transaction. So this is transaction hash or transaction ID. Then this was successful transaction. It was confirmed transaction. There is a block height, the timestamp, so when it happens, when it happened, and also from which address. Basically, that was my address, and I interacted to or with, and typically that's a smart contract address, or let's say the destination. Okay, so you see, I transferred some tokens, I minted some tokens, so maybe it was a swap, maybe it was a bridge. But if you go, step by step, you actually see what happened, right? From my address, it went to this one. From this one, it went to user park. There's some, that's some user swaps address or a smart contract, and then the result comes in, right? So essentially, you see all the steps, all the interactions on blockchain, okay? Which is pretty cool. So if you compare that to consensus ones, they're very similar. It almost looks the same because that's the purpose of these block explorers, right? You want to see the status, you want to see what's going on, and you want to have, these transparent insights into the transactions, accounts, addresses, and what's going on blockchain, right? Because that's the point of public blockchains. Okay, so thank you for being in this module, and see you in the next one. Welcome to our third demo, which is about our Oasis blockchain explorers. So I will show you in reality how to inspect some addresses, how to see some details, and how to get some transaction details. Okay, so what I can do, I can go to my block explorer. So I will say Emerald, or actually it's explorer.emerald.oasisdev. I will just copy my address because I want to use one of the existing addresses so I can show you what happened with my account. So I will use this Ethereum compatible account now because this Explorer is meant for Ethereum compatible accounts for Emerald. Okay, I copied the account. Now, the overview, right? Here is the Oasis Explorer. You have some statistics. That's the, some transactions per day. You have average block time. So currently it's a bit higher than usual. Then you have total transactions. You have total blocks, wallet addresses, and so on, right? So some statistics. There are transactions, smart contract calls, transactions, token transfers on Emerald. So which is pretty cool. Okay, now, you can also click on that transaction if you want to see the details, right? So you can do that. I will do that. You see the confirmation, in which block height, the transaction ID, timestamp, and so on. So you can actually see what happened. Okay. Now, if you want to see what was going on with your own address, copy the address, paste the address into the search bar, and see your address. So now you have status of your address. You see the balance 24.2, 5 tokens. Okay. You see, if you want to check the tokens, you can also check it here. Click tokens. And you see there's a list of tokens that this Ethereum compatible address, let's say, has or holds on Emerald. Okay. That's pretty cool. And if you want to check the history, I will go to transactions, and you see I did some transaction, 23 days ago. So yeah, that's my demo account, and you can see when I was actually active, what I was doing, and so on, right? So it's pretty cool to see everything on blockchain. So this cannot be lost. It's always there. So that's also one of the things that it's typical for blockchains, public blockchains, always up and running, always available. You cannot hide, you cannot delete transactions. This is always here, right? So that's the point. If you want to dive even deeper, contract call, you can actually see. Let's start with the first one. So you can click on this transaction and you see exactly what happened, right? So this is the point of these block explorers, to see the details, what was going on this transaction, how much fee, how much value did you transfer, all the steps that happened from the beginning to the end, and so on, right? So it's nice thing if you like to dig a bit deeper, to have an overview of what's going on, what happened with specific address, with specific transaction. Because sometimes some transactions will not be successful. Maybe you're waiting for your NFT to be minted. Sometimes it's not successful. You will have to do it again, or you will have to mint another NFT, or you will have to swap another time. So sometimes, transactions are not successful. That's why it's so important to understand how to look, or how to have this insight, right? Because, sometimes projects or, blockchain is not, the reason why you don't have maybe some tokens received or NFTs minted, but transactions sometimes fail, right? Maybe because of too low gas. So if you have low gas or low fee to pay, maybe the network could be a bit of congested and so on, right? Or maybe sometimes it takes not only a few seconds, but only or maybe more, right? Maybe few minutes or maybe a day. I don't know. Sometimes happens, right? So when congestion comes, you have nothing else but to wait if the transaction was pending, or if it was successful. So yeah, use that block explorers, because they're very useful and something that you need to use if you are I will say not only beginner, but that's already a bit advanced stuff. So thank you for being here, and see you in the next one.